121 types of consciousness. Eka visa satani chittani. Number 30 in brief. These different classes of consciousness, which thus number 89, the wise divide into 121. Number 31 in detail. How does consciousness, which is analyzed into 89 types, become 121 types? The first jhana path, number 1, the first jhana path consciousness of stream entry together with initial application, sustained application, zest, happiness and one-pointedness. 2. The second jhana path consciousness of stream entry together with sustained application, zest, happiness and one-pointedness. 3. The third jhana path consciousness of stream entry together with zest, happiness and one-pointedness. 4. The fourth jhana path consciousness of stream entry together with happiness and one-pointedness. 5. The fifth jhana path consciousness of stream entry together with equanimity and one-pointedness. These are the 5 types of path consciousness of stream entry. So too, for the path consciousness of once returning, of non-returning and of arahantship, making 20 types of path consciousness, similarly there are 20 types of fruition consciousness. Thus, there are 40 types of supramundane consciousness. Guide to 30 to 31. All meditators reach the supramundane paths and fruits through the development of wisdom, panya, insight into the 3 characteristics of impermanence, suffering and non-self. However, they differ among themselves in the degree of their development of concentration, samadhi. Those who develop insight without a basis of jhana are called practitioners of their insight, sukha vipassaka. Sukha vipassaka. When they reach the path and fruit, their path and fruition chittas occur at a level corresponding to the first jhana. Those who develop insight on the basis of jhana attain a path and fruit which corresponds to the level of jhana they had attained before reaching the path. The ancient teachers advanced different views on the question of what factor determines the jhana level of the path and fruit. One school of thought holds that it is the basic jhana, padaka jhana. In other words, jhana used as a basis for concentrating the mind before developing the insight that culminates in the attainment of supramundane path. A second theory holds that the jhana level of the path is determined by the jhana used as an object for investigation by insight, called the comprehended or investigated jhana, sammasittajjana. Still, a third school of thought holds that when a meditator has mastered a range of jhanas, he can control the jhana level of the path by his personal wish or inclination. Ajjha saya. Nevertheless, no matter what explanation is adopted, for bare insight meditator and jhana meditator alike, all path and fruition chittas are considered types of jhana consciousness. They are so considered because they occur in the mode of closely contemplating their object with full absorption like the mundane jhanas, and because they possess the jhana factors with an intensity corresponding to their counterparts in the mundane jhanas. The supramundane jhanas of the paths and fruits differ from the mundane jhanas in several important respects. First, whereas the mundane jhanas take as their object some concept, such as the sign of the kasina, the supramundane jhanas take as their object nibbana, the unconditioned reality. Second, whereas the mundane jhanas merely suppress the defilements while leaving their underlying seeds intact, the supramundane jhanas of the path eradicate defilements so that they can never again arise. Third, while the mundane jhanas lead to rebirth in the fine material world and thus sustain existence in the round of rebirths, the jhanas of the path cut off the fetters binding one to the cycle and thus issue in liberation from the round of birth and death. Finally, whereas the role of wisdom in the mundane jhanas is subordinate to that of concentration, in the supramundane jhanas, wisdom and concentration are well balanced, with concentration fixing the mind on the unconditioned element and wisdom, fathoming the deep significance of the Four Noble Truths. According to the constellation of their jhana factors, the path and fruition chittas are graded along the scale of the 5 jhanas. Thus, instead of enumerating the supramundane consciousness as eightfold by way of the bare paths and fruits, each path and fruition consciousness can be enumerated as fivefold according to the level of jhana at which they may occur. When this is done, the 8 supramundane chittas, each taken at all of the 5 jhanic levels, become 40 in number, as shown in table 110. 32. Concluding summary. Dividing each supramundane consciousness into 5 kinds according to different jhana factors, the supramundane consciousness, it is said, becomes 40. As the fine material sphere consciousness is treated by division into first jhana consciousness and so on, even so is the supramundane consciousness, the immaterial sphere consciousness, is included in the 5th jhana. Thus the jhanas beginning from the first amount to 11, they say the last jhana, in other words the 5th, totals 23. 37 are wholesome, 52 are resultants. Thus the wise say that there are 121 types of consciousness. Guide to number 32. The immaterial sphere consciousness is included in the 5th jhana. As explained earlier, the arupa jhanas have the same 2 jhana factors as the 5th rupa jhana, and are therefore considered modes of the 5th jhana. Thus, when a meditator uses an arupa jhana as a basis for developing insight, his path and fruition consciousness becomes 5th jhana supramundane chittas. The jhanas beginning from the first amount to 11. Each jhana from the 1st to the 4th occurs, 1 each as fine material sphere wholesome, resultant and functional, and 4 each by way of the paths and fruits, equals 8, thus 11. The last totals 23. 5th jhana considered as embracing both the last rupa jhana and the 4 arupa jhanas, thus comprises 5 each as wholesome, resultant and functional, equals 15, and 8 as supramundane, for a total of 23. See table 1.11. The 37 wholesome and 52 resultants are obtained by replacing the 4 supramundane wholesome and resultant chittas with 20 each. Thus, the total number of chittas in the compendium of consciousness increases from 89 to 121. Thus ends the first chapter in the manual of Abhidhamma entitled The Compendium of Consciousness.